Oh, sorry, Zoe. Sorry. Want some tape?
Yes,
If I
please.
mess
I'll
something
grab
up,
it in
because
the...
then I can
Yeah.
like, yell at myself, and that's good for the thing.
In most of North America, funding for education is sparse. Resources are stretched thin, teachers often start early and end late, and students are churned out like factory products. What money schools are given goes towards sports and academic programs, and for most people, that's enough. However, the oversight of fine arts and other creative programs can have a huge impact on students. People for Education, an Ontario organization focused on inciting change in the education system, compiled a report in 2018 looking specifically at art education in Ontario schools. They found a disparity between elementary and secondary schools, as well as between rural and urban schools. Though PFE only gathered data for Ontario schools, their findings are reflected across Canada. Once students enter high school, creative aspects of their work are repressed in favor of a more appropriate style.
What about being creative draws you in?
Ooh, I think the community. The arts community is full of queer people, people of color, people from different backgrounds, people who are expressing themselves in different ways. But I also think because it's so very clearly a space where you're safe and where people aren't passing judgment and they're not commenting and they have no criticism. And if they do, it's constructive. Like it's not, people aren't there to tear you down. And I think that's what draws me in.
Yeah. So do you think like high school art classes contributes to creating the community that draws students in?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it does. And I feel like almost you can tell when you become a member of the arts community because it's kind of like reaching an underbelly of like a dog and it's like soft and warm and loving and people really want to see you succeed and they want to see you do well and teachers are like there kind of like figuratively holding your hand. And I think that these like safe spaces help contribute to safe spaces in schools. Like a band room is a safe place, but a band room being in a school makes the school, by extension, a safe place.
It's nice to have a little vessel of like self-expression because I feel like in this world society it's very quick to shut down people doing what they want to do, so it's nice to have a thing where you know that like, oh, this is what I like to do and this is what I do to express myself.
How do you balance your creativity, your art, with your education?
Not well. I usually, when I'm doing a good job at it, I come home and then I create right away. So I usually block off like an hour and a half to like paint, draw, read, journal, knit. And then after that, I start tackling my homework. I find that the mental break that hour and a half gives me, kind of like that buffer zone, is effective in making sure that I'm able to focus. And I feel that if I just keep pushing and I just do my homework right when I get home, then I kind of burn out. And I feel like my art in balancing my creativity and in school is the finding that I can't burn out in either subject because I'm doing them both at once. It definitely helps me manage my stress and it helps kind of put the stress in perspective. Like sometimes tests can seem all-consuming, but when you go and you paint for an hour and a half, that's all-consuming. And then it kind of helps you think to yourself, like, is it only all-consuming because I'm focusing on it? And then you can kind of reframe how you think about it.
Typically, I only like to paint on weekends because I have no time during the week. And I usually like to paint after I do my homework because then it feels more rewarding. Like if I start painting and I haven't done any homework and I have so much, I'll just be like, oh, I should be doing my homework, but I'm not. And then I just feel guilty. It definitely helps manage the stress. I mean, like whenever there's a lot going on, it's always nice to sit down and draw something.
Well, like I said, band provides like a release for me, so if I'm like feeling particularly stressed about an assignment or something or a test coming up, I'll be looking extra forward to a rehearsal or I'll go practice my instrument. But then like with school stuff, it takes away from that, which, you know, kind of sucks, but it is what it is, I guess. So you kind of just have to push through the assignments that you know you have so you can get to doing the fun stuff.
You have a flute test coming up and you kind of are pursuing an education in music as well, right? So how do you balance like the fact that sometimes your music and your relief from education is also a different form of education?
Well, I guess sometimes I can trick myself into thinking that, oh, sometimes this is more important, so I can push this assignment a little bit back, which probably isn't the best thing to do, but you know, it is what it is. Because it is a form of education. I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Does playing music help you manage your stress in a way?
Yes, oh gosh, yes. Because, like, I guess it's something I've been working on for a lot of years, so it's something I'm relatively decent at. So if there's ever something I'm not good at and you kind of need that little release, it's like, oh, I'm actually not like a terrible person and I can actually do stuff, you go pick up the instrument and it feels good and it's a little release. It's an emotional release and it's a stress release.
Do you think art and creativity are important in education?
Yes, I absolutely do. I think that our school systems are very much centered around sports teams. And the thing about sports teams is that some kids make it and some kids don't. And if you don't make it, that's kind of like your last attempt. But I feel like the arts is different because if you make it or you don't make it, it's not important. It's just important about like expressing yourself and being out there. And there is a place for every single person in the arts. They don't audition people for band, they don't audition people for choir, you're not auditioned to get into the art program. You just like show up and you bring yourself and you bring your best variation of your art, and that's important for kids.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to come up with ideas for projects somehow, because, I mean, if you want it to stand out, then you gotta think of something cool.